Hello and welcome back again. This is the African Humanist. I've come again with a video. I want to talk about the Bible and slavery. Yes, let's talk about it, about slavery. The Bible actually supports slavery, and the people who engaged in slavery actually used the Bible as a guide, because the Bible teaches them what to do, what not to do, teaches the slave master. And the way I see it is a religion given to you by your slave master cannot save you. If you read the history, if you read how this was perpetrated, how these people came into Africa bearing Bibles in their hands, but at the same time taking the slaves away. They didn't stop there. They colonized lots of the land. And even some countries just not how many years ago just got their freedom from the people who brought us Christianity. I mean, these are hard topics. These are topics that some people don't want to talk about. I mean, a lady said to me she's going to unfollow me because she doesn't want to see my posts anymore. Anything I post that would challenge her faith, she wants nothing to do with it. So, which is fine. But how can you be so comfortable in a religion that started on such basis? I mean, it's enough to, some people just want to be ignorant for their lives. They just want to never question. They never want to, seek some form of truth, knowledge. Some people, I don't know. I think I used to be like that before. I would never challenge anything. I would never seek to find out the truth or whatever. It just wasn't part of my but I got to the point where I started to ask, what's this all about? What's this all about? So anyways, I'm going to be looking at the Bible. So this is not hearsay. This is not, I'm looking at the book, the very book that Christians use as the moral guide. They use as the book that they use to guide their lives. I've heard people say that the Bible is a complete book. There are no errors. There are no misinterpretations. Neither is there any inconsistency. Some people think that the Bible is foolproof. Okay? So, and it's those people that I'm actually addressing, really. Because if you think the Bible is foolproof, right? Have you really ever seen this particular passage? Have you stopped to see the context and see what were they trying to do? Because what I started doing now is I read the Bible and I don't just read and glance over. I still read the Bible. I'm an atheist, but let me tell you, I got to being an atheist because I read the Bible. I read it. See, the things that you don't look at, When you read the Bible, I look the context, the era, the period. What were they trying to say? Who is saying what? Who's doing what? Who was in there? Who was, you know? These are the things that I started to look at. I'm going to start reading from Exodus 21. And I've chosen to read from the NIV version, so the New International Version. So follow me. Let's do Bible study, okay? So these are the laws you are to set before them. So this is Exodus 21 verse 1. Verse 2 says, if you buy a Hebrew slave, he is to serve you for 6 years, but in the 7th year, he shall go free without paying anything. So this is to the slave master. If he buys a Hebrew slave, it says, if you buy a Hebrew slave, can you imagine buying another human as a slave? And that slave is to serve you for 6 years. You do realize there's a different treatment for a Hebrew slave and a slave who is not Hebrew. The one who is not a Hebrew slave, he gets worse treatment than a Hebrew slave. So if you were not a Hebrew, in fact, your case was worse. So let's carry on, because 6 years you have to keep this Hebrew slave, and after then you have to let him go. And he shall go free without paying anything. Can you imagine? I think, okay, what it was, this is the indentured servitude. I hope I'm saying that name right. Indentured servitude, where if I owe somebody, I can then give my time, my services, they can use me for 6 years and my debt is paid. Okay? And after the 6 years, I don't have to pay anything. Okay? So that's what this is about. If he comes alone, he is to go free alone. Okay? But if he has a wife, when he comes, she is to go with him. So can you imagine? Just think about this day and age that we're in. You know, I want to go and pay my debt, but I haven't got money, so I can go and be sold into slavery, and I take the wife. Say I'm a man, I take the wife along, and she's serving as well as myself. If his master gives him a wife and she bears him sons or daughters, the woman and her children shall belong to her master, and the man shall go free. I'll read that again. If his master gives him a wife and she bears him sons or daughters, the woman and her children shall belong to her master, and only the man shall go free. So if the slave master gives his slave a wife and she bears children in that time, when it's time for the slave to go, he has to leave his wife and children, because they are the property of the slave master. Yes, but if the slave declares, I love my master and my wife and children and don't want to go free, then his master must take him before the judge. He shall take him to the door or the doorpost and pierce his ear with an awl, A-W-L, owl. Then he will be his servant for life. So if the servant says, I love my master and my wife and children, so already he's free. But the wife and children, they are the property of the master for life. So if he says, I can't go without, these are my family, I can't go without them, he can go to, so these are the conditions for getting his wife and children. He has to go to the master. Tell his master, look, I'm not going anywhere without my kids. Then the slave master will take him to the judge and says he will take him to the door or the doorpost and pierce his ear with an awl. Then he will be his servant for life. That means that what they pierced in his ear is a sign that that man is the property of another man for the rest of his life. Also, his wife, his children. It's a continuous circle, just cycle. Continuous. Can't be free. And the Bible is giving the conditions to allow this happen. If a man sells his daughter as a servant, she is not to go free, as male servants do. This is verse 7. If she does not please the master who has selected him for herself, who has selected her for himself, he must let her be redeemed. He has no right to sell her to foreigners because he has broken faith with her. Let me read that again, because the women slaves are treated even different. Hey, whoa. If a man sells his daughter as a servant, they sell the girl children into slavery. She is not to go free as the male servants do. So the female servants can never go free. If she does not please the master who has selected her for himself, so the master can have her for himself. But if she doesn't please him, he must let her be redeemed. So that means her family can come back and redeem her, maybe pay some money, and then, but he mustn't hold on to her if she doesn't please him. It says he has no right to sell her to foreigners. Ooh. Because he has broken faith with her. Now, these are just laws. The human nature makes us, we break laws, we break rules. So can you imagine, some people wouldn't listen to this. They would just do whatever they like, sell the women to foreigners, do whatever. I just... breaks my heart. Now, verse 9, if he selects her for his son, he must grant her the rights of a daughter. So the Bible has to come and tell them. If the slave master buys that lady for his son as a wife or concubine, mistress, whatever, he must grant her the rights of a daughter. If he marries another woman, because then they could marry as many, they just used to marry willy-nilly. If he marries another woman, he must not deprive the first one of her food, clothing, and marital rights. So he must not deny her of food, clothing, and sex. If he doesn't provide her with these things, she's to go free without any payments. How nice. Verse 12. Anyone who strikes a person with a fatal blow is to be put to death. Anyway, never mind. I think that's not the chapter. I think it was, verse 20 that I was going to. Anyone who beats their male or female slave with a rod must be punished if the slave dies as a direct result. So if the slave dies, the slave master is to be punished. It didn't say they should be killed. No, it didn't say they need to die. No, they just need to be punished. But if the slave recovers after a day or two, since they are not to be punished, since the slave is their property. Let me read that again. They are not to be punished if the slave recovers after a day or two, since the slave is their property. So if the slave master beats the slave so hard, and that slave recovers after a day or two, the slave master is not to be punished, because the slave is his property. Ooh. An owner who hits a male or female slave in the eye and destroys it must let the slave go free to compensate for the eye. How cruel. That's what they get. The slave master gets to go free after damaging the eye of the slave. That's it. Just you damage the eye, just let them go. It's cruel. And any owner who knocks out the tooth of a male or female slave must let the slave go free to compensate for the tooth. It's cruelty. Cruelty. It's in the Bible. It's in the Bible. I mean, then 32 says, if the bull gores a male or a female slave, so this is about someone who owns a bull. If the slave master owns a bull, and if the bull gores a male or female slave, the owner must pay 30 shekels of silver to the master of the slave. Can you imagine? Can you imagine this? The slaves, and some people will still come and tell me that I'm not looking at the context. I'm not looking at that era was different from this era that we're in. But the Bible was what was used to perpetrate slavery. I've been to a place where they kept slaves, in like a slave museum. It was dreadful. It was dreadful to think, because this museum is quite close to the sea, so that's where the ships used to stop, and then the slaves are taken away on boats. If you see the chains, if you see the things they used to put them in shackles, you will never nobody should make any excuses for slavery. And it's in the Bible that people read every day. And even when Jesus came, even in the New Testament, some people will say, okay, that's the Old Testament. In the New Testament even encourages the slave to be loyal to their masters. So if the bull gores the male or female slave, the owner must pay 30 shekels of silver to the master of the slave, and the bull is to be stoned to death. It's human. Where's your human feelings? So there's an article I came across that talks about slavery. I will put it in the description. Please go and have a read. It says, except for murder, slavery has got to be one of the most immoral things a person can do. Yet slavery is rampant throughout the Bible in both the Old and the New Testaments. The Bible clearly approves of slavery in many passages, and it goes as far as to tell how to obtain slaves, how you can beat them, and when you can have sex with the female slaves. Many Jews and Christians will try to ignore the moral problems of slavery by saying that these slaves were actually servants or indentured servants. Many translations of the Bible use the word servant, bondservant, or manservant instead of slave, to make the Bible seem less moral than it is. Less immoral, sorry, I meant to say. While many slaves have worked as households servants, that doesn't mean they were not slaves who were bought, sold, and treated worse than livestock. Our fellow humans were treated less than livestock. And you tell me that your Bible is a moral book? So, the Bible teaches you how you can keep your slave permanently by keeping his wife and children hostage until he says he wants to become a permanent slave. What kind of family values are these? The Bible also describes the sickening practice of sex slavery. How can anyone think it is moral to sell your own daughter as a sex slave? Yes, it's in the Bible. So these are the family values? Really? A man can buy as many sex slaves as he wants as long as he feeds them, clothes them, and he has sex with them. Yeah, it's in the Bible. What does the Bible say about beating slaves? It says you can beat both male and female slaves with a rod so hard that as long as they don't die right away, you are cleared of any wrongdoing. You would think that Jesus and the New Testament will have a different view of slavery. But slavery is still approved of in the New Testament, as the following passages show. Ephesians 6:5 says, "Slave, obey your earthly masters with deep respect and fear. Serve them sincerely as you would serve Christ." In the New Testament, nowhere did Jesus say, "I abhor slavery. I've come to stop the act of slavery." Rather, in the New Testament says, respect your slave. Be loyal to your slave like you would to your master, Christ. First Timothy 6:1-2. Christians who are slaves should give their masters full respect so that the name of God and his teaching will not be shamed. Hey. The Bible teaches you to give your master full respect so that the name of God and his teaching will not be shamed. Some of you have never looked at it like this in your Bible. I'm here to teach you. I don't know it all. I'm still learning. But if you want to come with me on this ride, come with me. I've deconverted, and these are some of the reasons. The Bible is teaching the Christian how to respect, that the Christian slave, how to give their master full respect so that the name of God and his teaching will not be shamed. If your master is a Christian, there is no excuse for being disrespectful. Really? So if they are another religion, you can be disrespectful to them. But if your master is a Christian, there's no excuse for being disrespectful. You should work all the harder because you are helping another believer by your efforts. That's the cruelty. Teach this truth, Timothy, and encourage everyone to obey them. 1 Timothy 6, verse 1 to 2. In the following passage says that Jesus clearly approves of the beating of slaves, even if they didn't know they were doing anything wrong. Luke chapter 12, verse 47 to 48. The servant will be severely punished, for though he knew his duty, he refused to do it. But people who are not aware that they are doing wrong will be punished only lightly. Much is required for those to whom much is given, and much more is required from those to whom much is expected. These are the words from Jesus' mouth. Yes. That's the Bible and slavery. There's no sugar coating. There's no hanky-panky. I'll put the link for this article that I was reading. I'll put it in the description. Yes. It's uncomfortable, but we need to challenge these things. These are the people who gave us this religion, Christianity, used this. Where's my Bible? Never mind. They used it to enslave our forefathers. And here we are, 2021. People coming into my inbox to come and tell me I should not give up Christianity. Think again. Thank you. I'm the African Humanist.